So I am now trying to um, say hello to all the friends who've joined in. There are several known people, and so I'm really happy that you're on. I thought today we would talk about the use of ICTs for social accountability, and I'm going to speak about the work that COPASA has done. COPASA in India has done some work on this, and we found it really very sort of exciting to do this. And also some work that my own teams have done, Sahej teams have done on maternal health accountability. So I thought that first we should begin by looking at how we understand accountability and then proceed from there to ICTs for accountability. So understanding of accountability is relational. It's based on, 1 minute, there's a message I just want to, yeah, okay. Can everybody see my PowerPoint? And can I just proceed? I was getting a bit anxious because I am not getting any feedback from anybody. Okay, and can you all hear me? Can you hear me clearly? Okay, all right. So then now I am going ahead. So as I was saying, the framework of accountability is actually couched in a rights discourse, where we say that there are rights holders or rights claimants, and there are duty bearers who are obligated to, respect, protect, and fulfill these rights. So obligation of the power holders, whoever the duty bearers are, is to account for or to take responsibility for their actions and to answer questions regarding decisions and or actions. And who are the power holders? These are people who hold political, financial, or other forms of power. And the whole idea behind accountability is to move towards democratization and reducing power differentials. Three other concepts which are embedded in the concept of accountability are answerability, that duty bearers are answerable for their actions; enforceability, which means that their obligations can be enforced. And if they are not enforced, then rights claimants can seek recourse and grievance redressal. So this is about accountability. Now, social accountability, what do we mean by social accountability? Accountability is of various kinds. There's legal accountability, there's political accountability. Today, I'm going to be talking about social accountability. And this relies on civic engagement or participation of ordinary citizens, ordinary people, or civil society organizations. And social accountability for health includes a very wide range of actions and mechanisms that citizens, communities, media, CSOs can use to hold health officials and service providers accountable for their obligations towards health rights. And many of us are familiar with some of the social accountability tools that we are using. In India, we're using community-based monitoring. We have been trying to use that in several states through the NRHM program. There's participatory planning and budgeting, there's public expenditure tracking, there's journalism, there's citizen advisory boards. So some of the other things which are very, very important as far as some of us in COPASA are concerned. COPASA actually tries to promote, as we've been saying, democratization and voice of the marginalized and the affected people and their participation. So these concepts of accountability and participation are extremely important for us. And we believe that citizens have the right to demand accountability, and public actors have the obligation to account through dialogue and discussion. Many of the communities amongst whom we work are quite unaware that they can demand accountability from service providers. They do not recognize themselves as right holders. And so this has been one of the challenges and one of the things that we, sort of begin with. And there's an evolving notion of participation. Many of us who've been around for all these decades have been party to projects and programs which used to consider the communities amongst whom we worked as beneficiaries. And this notion of participation from beneficiaries to citizens to rights holders, from projects to programs, and from mere consultation to decision making. These are some of the other concepts which are very important, and I've given the reference over here. Gaventa's work is extremely important and very profound, I feel, when it comes to participation. Voice and accountability is yet another concept, increasing citizens' voice and providing a space for such voice. And when we talk of spaces, there are the invited spaces and the claimed spaces. Invited spaces are where we, as civil society organizations, are invited, let's say, by the Ministry of Health to be on the mission steering group of the NRHM, or to be in a technical advisory committee for maternal health. And claimed spaces are those spaces where we demand that we be heard. So claimed spaces can be spaces through dharnas and morchas, forcing duty bearers to come through Jan Samvads, for instance, to force duty bearers to come and listen to us and to address our concerns. There is yet another space which is not mentioned on the slide, and those are what we call hybrid spaces, which are like the Rogi Kalyan Samiti or the Village Health Sanitation Nutrition Committee, where where as civil society members there is a space to be occupied and to be sort of engaged in. So now I'm moving to the next section of my presentation, where we're going to be talking about ICTs and accountability. And many of us who are in COPASA have a very, very strong sort of grounding in Jan Swasthya Abhiyan, People's Health Movement, as well as in some of the community-based monitoring work that has been, initiated after the NRHM came about. And community monitoring, as many of us know, is based on generation of evidence. Communities, users collect evidence very systematically, compile it, collate it, analyze it, and then present it to duty bearers, either in the form of report cards or in some other forms, memorandums and things like that. And so using this, we based on the challenges that many of us have faced in the communities, we have recognized that this evidence generation is a task that mostly is being done by the NGOs. The NGOs and the field workers, and very rarely by actual community representatives. So there are mediators in between. And the reason for this is because although we have tried to simplify tools for data collection, for evidence generation, the task is still quite sophisticated and requires a lot of training and capacity building. And so one of the questions which has come up is that, can we have another kind of evidence? What are the other kinds of evidence that we can use So that is one of the questions that we try to address through this ICT's work. And the other thing is our quest for democratization. We recognize that technology and information communication technologies are lie with a certain select population, and the use of those, the knowledge of how to use it is with a certain group of people. And although we know that mobile phones are now, quite widely being used, so the other quest that we had was that can this digital divide be bridged by this work on ICTs and accountability? And the last point here is that we were wondering whether um, directly, the direct participation and voice of affected groups, whether that can work. So, with that background, I'm going to describe now COPASA's efforts of the use of ICTs and accountability that we have done. I just want to check with you, is everybody able to hear me? I don't have any feedback. Uh, can you hear me? Okay, so looks like you can hear me. Okay, so I will then go ahead. Um, and so Copasa's work, um, what we did was that in 2015, January 2015, we did the first workshop in Bhopal with some organizations, with some of our partner members, and to talk about photo voice, to train ourselves in how to take photographs, and to see how we can use these photographs for accountability. And so through this process, we've had actually 4 workshops since 2015, 4 major workshops, and I think there have been other efforts at the regional level and at the state level. And through these workshops, 30 Kopasa practitioners from 6 states of India have been nurtured to use these technologies, and they in turn have gone to the gather and the Kopasa Secretariat has been giving us constant support since then. So this is the second workshop. This was the second workshop in Baroda. This that you see over here is the output of the first Bhopal workshop. This is done by the Tamil Nadu group, the Sochara group, and they created a photo voice exhibition, which they use. Actually, they did more than one. They created more than one, and then they used this for advocacy. So this is a second workshop where we have come back to present our work, what we did in the last 5 months, as well as to move ahead with how to film, how to make short films. So this is Vinay, who is teaching us about filmmaking. And so this is the same workshop where participants are learning how to handle cameras. Um, Here they are learning how to frame a shot. Bhav and Sambit, who were the trainers in this workshop, were teaching participants to how to frame a shot, and so you see participants over there with their hands, with their palms, spread out. Similarly over here. Now this photograph is actually of the Tamil Nadu group. They've gone back to their to Tamil Nadu and done a similar workshop with their participants over there. So this is showing you the cascading effect. So this was a process which was followed, quite rigorous, a lot of engagement of the participants as well as the as well as the resource persons, Sambit and Bhav and Vinay. And now what I want to show you is one photo story. This is one amongst the many which were produced. And this is a powerful photo story which the team from Karnataka actually made and used. This is around the issue of manual scavengers, and Thamate, which is a group of self-help group of the manual scavengers, has created this photo story. And their struggle is around eradication of caste-based discrimination, eradication of occupations like manual scavenging, ensuring liberation and empowerment of manual scavengers in the most marginalized communities, and ensuring access to health services, education, employment, housing, sanitation. Very, very, very inspiring work. So this is framing of the issue. And now we go into the photographs. If I can get that on, I don't know why it's, yeah, here it is. So these were some of the photos that this group took, and gave them captions and used them to create the photo story. So they're showing the kind of hardships that manual scavengers face, the work and their tasks, and so various facets of their work. And then they created these profiles um, of particular, persons engaged in this occupation. So this is Gangama, and she belongs to the Dalit community, and she's been employed as a contract worker with the civic body since the past 15 years. And what is her story? This story showcased to the civic body authorities, where she was working as a contract worker, cleaning toilets without any protective gear, which increases her vulnerability to diseases and injuries and violates her dignity and health rights. She has no sick leave, financial support. She needed a surgery for a gynec problem, and the public health service providers refused to conduct the surgery. So you see elements of discrimination there. And sustained advocacy with the use of the photo story, the municipality where she worked took cognizance of her application for refund of the surgery cost undertaken by the private hospital where she was forced to go because the public sector denied her services. And so, what was the result of this? What was the result of this advocacy of using the photo story? The local public hospital officials assured her, and they took up these issues on a priority basis. Gangama herself expressed that she became aware of her health entitlements and confident in raising her voice and demanding, that the health system do things for them, addresses their needs. And going beyond this, inspired by the action of the authorities on this photo story, other women Safai Karmacharis came forward for redressal with all their problems. So this is just one photo story amongst, I think, about the 20 or 30 or 40. I think there were a number of them. The Tamil Nadu group created very, very powerful ones. Of course, this group created, the Gujarat group created stories. And so all of these they have been using over the last 2 years. And now it seems like it has become a second nature to these teams to use photographs and videos for doing their social accountability work. The second case study that I want to share with you is some of the work that my own team members in Gujarat have done around the issue of maternal health. And if you look at this, so there are tools, there are monitoring tools, as I was telling you earlier. And this is Veena, and she's got this. Can you see this arrow? I don't know whether you can see that. This is a tool that was developed through the participation of the Devgarh Mahila Sangathan and the NGO staff to monitor the quality of maternal health services. So she's explaining this tool to this group of women here. And this tool is then filled up by community volunteers for every pregnant woman to track her, uh, the trajectory of the services that she uses. This is another tool. This is called the Mamta Toran, and this is showing you the Village Health and Nutrition Day, which is a convergence institution in the villages, is supposed to provide for all pregnant, lactating, and adolescent girls in the village. And so here Sunita is explaining, through the Mamta Toran, the services that women can get. And the local women then, once they become aware that these are the services that they can get, they use a checklist and or they take appropriate photographs to monitor whether those services, they're getting those services. So here is one Anganwadi in Panchmahal's district where they have taken a photograph to show, where is the attendance of this? Look at this. There are only three pairs of slippers over there. So very, very weak attendance in this Village Health and Nutrition Day in very inadequate space. And here is another one where these activists, community activists, are saying, where is the privacy for doing abdominal checkups during the VHND, the Village Health and Nutrition Day? And so, based on the evidence that is generated, report cards are compiled, and so this is a report card. This is a report card. You can't see it very clearly, but this is a report card which collates all the information which has come on the maternal health monitoring tool of the women under this PHC in the last 4 months or 6 months, and this through the report card. These community volunteers are trained community volunteers are communicating, they're communicating the findings to the community members. And there is also a point, one of the other things that we've been trying to do is to make maternal health not only a women's issue. So we believe that the community at large, including men and gram sabhas and panchayats, should be responsible for maternal health, for demanding accountability for maternal health services. So you see the men also in this picture. Now, these sort of meetings are held to garner support, to mobilize communities for dialogues uh, with the health system. So, and so now here you see the Anand district health officers. There's the RCHO and there's the, what do you call him, CD there. It is the year are you stop. That report card community members of the use of as well as in the sick. I'm aware I'm sort of running out of time, so these are now my last two slides. And so the conclusion is that through this effort, what we are showing is that we have been able to reframe what is evidence. What is evidence? What is credible evidence? And the team, part of this effort, report a terrific value addition to their community monitoring efforts. They say that the visual evidence is so powerful, both for the communities as well as for duty bearers. There has been a shifting of power relations. I think the use of technology, mastering technology, has been incredibly empowering. And we have the story of one Mohan Bhai in Panchmahal district, tribal boy, and in the first workshop he was so hesitant and so sort of disempowered in Bhopal. He didn't know the language. And now, if you encounter him through the use of his simple telephone and taking photographs and using those photographs powerfully, he has emerged into such a self confident young man. And so that is, shifting of power relations and then creating new forms of voice and participation. Affected groups, as you saw over here, the manual scavenging community, have created their own visual evidence to highlight the issues for advocacy. So I'm going to end now. I do want to acknowledge all the trainers and resource persons and the teams and the CBOs who've been part of this entire effort. And I'm going to stop now, and I look forward to seeing points. So I don't know. I know that there are a lot of chat messages which have come, but I am not aware of what they are. So now I'm happy to look at all of that. Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Renuji, for very vividly sharing the initiative of ICT used for social accountability. Now we'll be heading in for a short break where all of you can see a short film which has been developed by the Kupasa Communication Hub on use of ICT, and it captures the ICT journey of over 2 years which Renuji has described in her presentation. Break, Renuji will be addressing all of your comments and questions, and from the secretariat, Sambiji will be sharing all the questions on the screen. So now we'll be heading in for the break, and you can all watch that small film on ICT.
This is a new experience for me. I learned about how to use the photo to evidence.
काम करते हैं तो वहाँ पे फोटो की कैसे हम लें, कैसे कमेटी को उसमें इन्वॉल्व करें और उसका कैसे उपयोग कर पाएं।
ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा कम्युनिटी के लोग पार्टिसिपेट करें और कम्युनिटी मॉनिटरिंग का जो रोल है वो अपने हाथ में लेके
स्किल्स आपने सीख लिए हैं, तो नेक्स्ट आपको स्टोरी ठीक से वो वेव करना, डेवलप करना
और किस तरह को वो फोटो को आप यानी चर्चा में ला सकते हो।